The first is in a previous life, I ran a nonprofit in East Timor that helped young people form agricultural cooperatives of their own design. And in that process, we had a lot of trouble initially engaging groups, right? Trying to understand who was coming to the table and what they wanted and what their perceptions were of outsiders, right? And it was only through the process both of talking to groups and of seeing groups respond to us that we came to understand how we were being perceived as outside actors, and thus what kinds of groups of people we're going to select into participating in the network, and how our approach affected what that population was. So in that sense, we used both our own tacit knowledge from experience and what I would call the tacit knowledge of others, that is what others had to say about their experience. And I would say, maybe it's the phrase course correction, but now, of course, as an academic and teacher, I find myself actually in courses that often need correction. And while I recognize it's not the obvious development analog, I think any instructor will tell you that there may be feedback forms at the end of the class that give you a number on a Likert type scale in terms of how satisfied students are in the class. But it's really the written comments, but more than that, the experience of interacting with students. You can tell when you give a lecture what has landed and what hasn't. You might not know exactly why, but it's that sort of real-time feedback, that experiential, you have to be there, what I would call observable, non-verifiable information that really pushes changes in what I and we do. I have trouble understanding what it means to codify the tacit knowledge. So that is, if we go back to Polanyi's definition of tacit knowledge, as we know more than we can tell. Your question is, have you learned from the telling of others about things they couldn't tell about, but knew something, right? And my answer is, I don't know what that question means. So that is to say, it strikes me that when we codify the knowledge, there is a process wherein we may lose the tacit dimension. Those who originally created the notion of tacit knowledge had precisely that in mind. So have I used knowledge and feedback from others? Of course. Have I learned and seen others benefit from tacit knowledge? Of course I have. But if indeed tacit knowledge can't be transmitted, it's not clear to me that feedback contains it. I'm not sure that's a fatal thing for feedback and for the potential of feedback loops to change what programs do, to change what people do. In the sense that it strikes me that often when people speak from a summary, when people give feedback, they're drawing upon their own tacit knowledge. But it's not the tacit knowledge which is being communicated, it is the results. And the results are meaningful. Their feedback is meaningful because of their own tacit knowledge, not because of their ability to convey it directly. There's a distinction between communicating tacit knowledge, which I think is almost definitionally impossible, and communicating one's feedback, which is rich in tacit knowledge, right? So the latter is possible, it strikes me, right? So we can draw upon our tacit knowledge in reacting to things, and we can draw upon our tacit knowledge to make explicit predictions. But we can't learn, I think, from tacit knowledge communicated by others, because I think it is, by definition, impossible for them to have